Have you ever wondered how people discovered which plants could heal wounds, flavor food, or even protect against disease? For thousands of years, communities around the world have learned to use plants not just for survival but for health, culture, and meaning. Welcome to the fascinating world of ethnobotany, the study of how the people and the plants are deeply connected. Ethnobotany is about more than just plants. It is about the people, their traditions, stories, and knowledge passed down through generations. From traditional medicines to the sacred rituals, from wild fruits to the natural fibers, plants have shaped the way the cultures grow, heal, and thrive. In this video, we will explore how the indigenous and local communities use plant knowledge in everyday life and why this knowledge is still matters today. As we face global challenges like climate change, food insecurity, and loss of biodiversity, the wisdom of ethnobotany could help guide a more sustainable future. Join us as we discover how the ancient bond between the humans and the plant continues to shape our world. Ethnobotany is the scientific study of the interrelationship between the people and plants, encompassing the traditional knowledge, cultural practices, and use of plants by different societies, particularly indigenous communities. It examines how the people interact with the plants, including their use for food, shelter, clothing, medicine, and spiritual purposes, and aims to understand the cultural context of these plant uses and their impact on both human society and the surrounding environment. The key aspects of the ethnobotany include the interdisciplinary nature, which combines the aspects of botany and anthropology to understand the human relationship with the plant world. A central focus is on the traditional and cultural knowledge held by the local and indigenous peoples about the plants, which is often passed down through generations via oral traditions. Ethnobotanical studies cover a wide range of plant uses, such as identifying the plants for treating diseases, documenting edible plants and their preparations, studying plants used for shelter, fiber, and dyes, and exploring the symbolic and ritualistic uses of the plant. Ethnobotany is an interdisciplinary field because it bridges natural sciences, social sciences, and even the humanities. It does not just study the plants biologically but also their cultural, ecological, and economic roles. Here are some of the main disciplines it draws from: botany, the plant taxonomy, physiology, ecology, etc. The cultural practices, traditions, belief systems, ancient plant use and agricultural origins, plant based remedies and drug discoveries, plant names classification systems in local languages, conservation and sustainable resource use, community practices, trade, and livelihoods. Because it connects the biological knowledge with the cultural knowledge, ethnobotany helps to preserve both the biodiversity and cultural diversity. Ethnobotany is important because it connects the people, plant, and culture. It helps us to understand how traditional knowledge of the plants supports food, health, and daily life. Many modern medicines traces their roots to ethnobotanical practices, showing its value for scientific discovery. By studying and preserving this knowledge, we protect the cultural heritage and find sustainable solutions for the future. Many modern medicines like the aspirin, cancer drugs, and malarial treatment drugs extracted from Artemisia or the knowledge derived from the ethnobotany. The preserving this knowledge helps us to discover new treatments. The subject protects the knowledge of traditional crops and wild edibles, helps to diversify the diets, prevent the reliance on the few staple crops. The plants are tied to the rituals, beliefs, and folklore and spiritual practices. Ethnobotany safeguards intangible heritage and indigenous wisdom. It promotes the protection of both biodiversity and cultural diversity. It encourages sustainable use of forest and medicinal plants and ecosystems. It supports the local livelihoods through herbal medicines, crafts, spices, and ecotourism. It helps indigenous communities to gain recognition and fair benefit sharing. It creates a dialogue between the indigenous wisdom and scientific research, and it provides a holistic approach to health, environment, and agriculture. Here are the key areas of ethnobotanical studies. The food ethnobotany is the study of plants used as food, beverages, spices, and wild edibles. It includes farming practices, traditional crops, and food security. The medicinal ethnobotany is the documentation of plants used in healing and healthcare, sources for pharmacological research and new drug discoveries. Material ethnobotany is the plants used for shelter, clothing, tools, dyes, fiber, and crafts. Ritual and spiritual ethnobotany here the sacred and symbolic plants in religion, ceremonies, and mythology. Linguistic and cognitive ethnobotany, the indigenous classification systems, plant names, and folk taxonomy. It helps to understand the cultural perspective on biodiversity. Ecological ethnobotany, here the role of traditional knowledge in biodiversity conservation. It includes sacred groves, agroforestry, and sustainable harvesting. Economic ethnobotany is the study of trade, commercialization, and livelihoods based on the plants. It includes medicinal plants, markets, herbal industries, and ecotourism. The history of ethnobotany is a fascinating journey that has evolved from the ancient practical knowledge into a formal interdisciplinary science. It traces the long relationship between the humans and the plant world, moving from the simple necessity for survival to a complex field dedicated to conservation and cultural preservation. The roots of ethnobotany are as old as humanity itself. For millennia, early human groups developed a intimate knowledge of the plants in their environments out of pure necessity. This knowledge, which included identifying edible, medicinal, and poisonous plants, was passed down through oral traditions and rituals. Ancient civilizations formalized this practical knowledge. During 15th to 18th centuries, the age of exploration sparked a new wave of ethnobotanical documentation. European explorers, colonizers, and naturalists traveled the globe and recorded the uses of new and exotic plants they encountered. While this period expanded botanical knowledge immensely, it was often driven by the commercial interests such as finding new species, medicines, and raw materials. The term ethnobotany itself was not coined until 1895 by the American botanist John W. Horstberger. This marked a shift from simply cataloging plants to a more intentional focus on the relationship between the plants and human cultures. The 20th century saw the field matured largely due to the works of the figures like Richard Evans Kurtz, who often called father of modern ethnobotany. In the recent decades, ethnobotany has undergone a significant ethical transformation. Acknowledging the past extractive practices, modern ethnobotanists emphasize on collaboration, reciprocity, and intellectual property rights. Today, ethnobotany plays a crucial role in several fields, including biodiversity conservation, the search for new medicines, and supporting indigenous communities in revitalizing their traditional knowledge in the face of globalization. The plant-human relationship is an ancient and co-evolutionary one, spanning millions of years and shifting through three major phases: foraging or scavenging, hunter-gathering, and the pivotal transition to domestication in agriculture. Early humans learned by observation and experience which plants could heal, nourish, or harm. Over time, this knowledge shaped traditions and farming practices, and the first step towards the medicine and culture. The bond between the people and the plants led to the foundation for the human civilization itself. The foraging societies gathered wild fruits, seeds, nuts, and tubers as food. The archaeological findings show the early plant usage. The wild barley and the wheat in the Fertile Crescent has led to the agriculture. Early humans observed the animal behaviors like the animals eating certain plants when sick. They experimented with the roots, leaves, and the barks. For example, the willow bark, a pain reliever, which later gave birth to the aspirin. Many plants were used as building material like wood, bamboo, reeds, grasses, etc. The fibers were woven into ropes, nets, and clothing. Wood and dried grasses are used as the fuel, the charcoal for heating and cooking. Pollen of the medicinal plants found in the Neanderthal graves in Iraq indicate the usage of plants in spiritual and cultural usage. Some of the pioneers in the field of ethnobotany include Stephen Powers. In 1873, Powers used the term Aboriginal botany to describe the study of plants used by the indigenous people for various purposes. John William Horstberger, an American botanist who coined the term ethnobotany in 1895, defined it as the study of the plants used by the primitive and aboriginal people. His work laid the conceptual foundation of the field. Richard Evans Kurtz, known as the father of modern ethnobotany, studied the hallucinogenic and medicinal plants among the indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest. Harold Conklin, an American anthropologist and linguist, developed ethnoscience methods to understand the indigenous classification system, famous for his work with the Hanu people in Philippines. In India, E.K. Janaki Ammal was a pioneering Indian botanist. She took a keen interest in the ethnobotanical uses of the plants by the tribal communities in Kerala and worked to document and conserve their traditional knowledge. Her most notable conservation effort was her role in the Save Silent Valley movement. S.K. Jain, popularly known as the father of Indian ethnobotany, who played a pivotal role in establishing and popularizing the field in India. In 1980, he founded the Society of Ethnobotanists and initiated the publication of the international journal Ethnobotany. Ethnobotany faces many challenges today, especially as it tries to balance science, culture, and conservation. The first challenge is the loss of traditional knowledge. Elders passing away without the transfer of knowledge to the younger generations. The language extinction leading to the loss of plant names and uses. Modern lifestyles reducing the reliance on the traditional plants. High demand for the medicinal or commercial plants leading to the risk of overharvesting and extinction. Exploitation of indigenous knowledge without the permission or benefit sharing with the indigenous people. Deforestation, desertification, and climate shifts threaten plant diversity. The sacred groves and the wild edible sources are gradually disappearing. Some plant knowledge is sacred and restricted. Risk of misuse or misinterpretation by the outsiders. Traditional uses may not always align with the modern scientific evidence. Need for a collaboration between the healers and the scientists without dismissing the local wisdom. Weak protection and indigenous knowledge in many countries or limited enforcement of international frameworks like Nagoya Protocol. Ethnobotany raises important ethical questions. Indigenous knowledge has often been taken without consent, leading to exploitation and loss of cultural heritage. There are also issues of fair benefit sharing when the traditional plant knowledge is used for modern medicine. Respecting community rights, ensuring informed consent, and protecting the biodiversity are the key to making ethnobotany ethical and sustainable. Indigenous communities are the original knowledge holders, but their wisdom is often exploited. The companies patent plant based medicines or use without crediting or compensating the communities. For example, Neem is patented for pesticide despite centuries of local use. Turmeric, a patent attempt was made for wound healing. It was revoked after India challenged it. When the corporations or researchers use indigenous plant knowledge unethically or for profit, this leads to loss of trust between the communities and the researchers. If the plant knowledge leads to commercial success, it should share the benefit. It can be monetary in the form of royalties or non monetary like healthcare, education, and infrastructural support. The Convention on Biological Diversity Act recognizes sovereign rights of the nations over biodiversity. Nagoya Protocol ensures access and benefit sharing of genetic resources and traditional knowledge. UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People defends indigenous cultural and intellectual heritage. Obtain prior informed consent before documenting the plant knowledge. Respect sacred or secret knowledge. Not everything should be published. Work with the communities as partners, not just as sources. Ethnobotany reminds us that plants are not just resources, they are partners in our survival, health, and culture. By preserving traditional knowledge and combining it with modern science, we can discover new medicines, protect biodiversity, and build a more sustainable future. Let us honor this bond between people and plants so that the generations to come can continue to benefit from the nature's wisdom.